Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Industry 4.0, What's the Impact on Manufacturing and Distribution? Our goal today is to provide you with beneficial insights that will help you get the most out of your enterprise technology investments. Before we get started, let me review a few of our guidelines for the session. The phones will be muted for the duration of the presentation until we get to Q&A session during the last 5 to 10 minutes of the webinar. We encourage everyone to submit questions. You can access the chat and Q&A features of Zoom by hovering your cursor over the bottom center of your webinar screen and clicking on the icon. This is Kristen Renda, Marketing Program Manager at Ultra and your moderator for today's webinar. Our agenda includes a brief introduction to Ultra consultants, an overview on Industry 4.0 from Ultra host Andrew Bolivar, followed by a presentation from special guest Brian Rose from Trillium on Industry 4.0 and its impact on manufacturing and distribution. Then we will share some additional resources before moving on to Q&A. To get us started, let's take a brief moment to let you know that Ultra Consultants is serving as your host. As an independent ERP consultant, our team is a part of our client's organization, working shoulder to shoulder with ERP project teams throughout the country. Now celebrating Ultra's 25th year in business, hundreds of manufacturing and distribution companies have benefited from Ultra's guidance to meet their operational, market, and customer demand. Since 1994, manufacturers and distributors throughout North America, as well as companies with global operations, have teamed with Ultra as trusted advisors and industry best practice experts to guide them through their business process improvement and enterprise technology transformation journeys. Ultra's depth of experience is shown in a variety of vertical industries. Being a vendor independent consulting firm means two main things. First, we are your partner for guiding you in your vendor education and selection, and that's where we help you get to know in depth the enterprise software vendors and implementation practices that are best for your company and your unique project needs. Second, we are also your partner for helping you discover how to make improvements throughout your organization using your chosen technologies. Ultra offers proven methodologies in the areas of business process improvement services, technology selection, and implementation services. And we continue on with our clients through business transformation and value realization. The consistent thread throughout all of these services is risk, change, and project management. To help guide organizations like yours, Ultra offers an ERP toolkit that includes educational assets, including videos, podcasts, white papers, and best practice expertise for an effective technology project. I will send you an email following today's session that includes a link to this free download along with today's slides and a recording of the session. Our host today is Ultra's Center of Excellence Director, Andrew Bolivar. Andrew is a 17-year manufacturing and technology industry veteran with experience in manufacturing, management consulting, and the software industry. Andrew's professional experience includes leadership in the redesign and implementation of both process and systems across multiple client sites, working in concert with operations and IT groups to deliver meaningful transformation. With Ultra, Andrew provides leadership and project management for our clients seeking selection and implementation assistance. Andrew has conducted multiple full-scope ERP selections and implementations with a focus in food and bev, CPG, industrial equipment, and other industries. And with that, I will hand it over to Andrew to kick off today's discussion.
So today we are talking a little bit about Industry 4.0. And I thought before we got into some of the tools and capabilities that we're starting to see out there in the marketplace and at client sites, that we would take just a couple minutes to kind of level set and get a common understanding of what it is that we're talking about here when we say that term. So digital transformation, first of all. We hear that term everywhere these days. Many articles in industry publications discuss what this means, and it's become kind of a buzzword, and it's been around for some time, but it's probably still a term worth taking a quick look at. So as we guide organizations on their journey to business process transformation, our focus is on how enterprise information systems enable that broader digital transformation for companies within the sectors that we serve. Ultra sees digital transformation as aligning investments in technology, business models, and processes to drive value for their customers and employees and more effectively compete in their economies and markets. So that's kind of our definition of it. There's a lot of ways to go about it. Some of the things that come to mind, you see shop floors, or we see clients rather, moving their shop floors to completely paperless and electronic environments. Electronic workflows, moving things through the back office in a seamless fashion, the whole concept of lights out manufacturing and automation, predictive maintenance, right? Sensors going out on consumer products that are providing feedback to manufacturers. These are just some areas that we see. So Industry 4.0 it's been referred to frequently as the fourth industrial revolution, right? And we hear that term quite a bit these days. But the concept of Industry 4.0, I think, is more than just a trend or a buzzword out in the marketplace, right? As its name implies, many people would tell you that it is considered to be effectively just that, which is the fourth industrial revolution. It's really the culmination of automation, big data, cloud computing, and connected devices that are enabling this new kind of era in manufacturing and industry. So with each of these different areas, right, maturing in their own right, it's where they all collide that's kind of making this so exciting for everything. And as with most transformations in industry, obviously it's not going to happen overnight, especially most manufacturers, I think that we see are adopting components of these areas, right? They're growing in each of them. And then together, it's starting to really change the way business is running. And we are starting to already see some of this with our more sophisticated or complex manufacturers that are out there. Part of what's enabling all of this is the Industrial Internet of Things, or IIoT, if you've seen it. And that really refers to the ability to connect machines to the internet, to one another, and to larger business systems, right? And these aren't just machines, well, I should say they aren't machines that are necessarily meant to speak with these applications, but because of the connected nature of technology these days, they're able to communicate directly with applications, and the cloud computing power that they have now are allowing them to consume external data, right, from outside of the application itself. So it used to be that machines used PLCs to report data to an MES system, right? But that's kind of changed. Now we're finding that machines of almost any type can be fitted with some type of sensors or some type of data input that they're collecting and transmit that to almost any application or another machine for that matter for consumption. So the Internet of Things is effectively the network of physical devices, vehicles, home appliances, machines, anything and everything, right? That are embedded with electronics, software, sensors, enabling the connectivity across them, which ultimately is making these things able to connect and exchange data back and forth, which creates opportunities for more direct integration to the physical world and into computer systems, which, like I said, results in efficiency improvements, economic benefits, reduced human effort. The number of IoT devices increased 31% year over year to 8.4 billion just in 2017. It's continuing to grow further, and it's estimated that there's going to be about 30 billion devices on the IoT kind of network by 2020. The global market value of IoT is projected to reach 7.1 trillion by next year. So again, IoT involves extending the internet connectivity beyond standard devices like desktops and laptops to any range of traditionally non-internet enabled or dumb devices, right? Machines on the shop floor, a forklift as it goes through a doorway, right? Any number of things can be connected. Which brings us to the concept of sensors. I mentioned that in the past, there was a notion on a shop floor of a manufacturing tool with a PLC that might provide some information on cycles or pressure or something like that back to a manufacturing execution system. And they're very tightly integrated, and they worked exclusively together. But what we're seeing today is that sensors can be applied to just about anything and everything that's out there. The cost of producing very small sensors for different things has come down dramatically, and it's allowed us to retrofit all sorts of machines and equipment, devices. Basically, if you can think of it, you could connect it in some form or fashion to the Internet of Things, right? They're much cheaper, they're reliable, and like I said, they're out there capturing cycle times, units, pressure, effectively any data point that you can conceive of. There's some type of cheap, simple sensor out there that can be applied that can feed that information back. So in many cases, what we see is just like the PLCs of the past, they're reporting production or some other metric in real time as it's happening. So as you can imagine, with so many data points, the industrial Internet of Things and high-speed connectivity, that they're enabling plant floors and shops to have a whole new wealth of information. It's great. They produce a ton of data. The challenge in some cases for organizations collecting that is, how do I turn this mountain of data into some kind of actionable intelligence so that I can make better real-time business decisions? We've seen in some cases clients rolling out what we call control towers, right, where we're effectively monitoring the business in real time across all sorts of different areas, right? So it's more than just production and say an MES or shop floor tool. They may be watching the path of international shipments on the water in real time via small GPS sensors. They're monitoring receipts of product and real-time put away as things are tagged with RFIDs and being automatically flagged on the shop floor as they're put away or moved into the warehouse. So that concept of the control tower is effectively bringing all that together and allowing them to, just like an air traffic control tower, take a look at everything and monitor the full view of what's going on in their business. So I hope that provided some level of kind of baseline and context as we move forward in today's conversation. So now we're going to take a look at, when we think of Industry 4.0, what's the impact specifically on our manufacturing distribution clients? What are the tools that are out there? What are we seeing in the marketplace? Today we've invited Terillium as our speaker and guest to talk a little bit about their approach to Industry 4.0 and what they've seen out there and the tools that they bring to bear. So we've got Brian Rose, manager and senior consultant there at Terillium. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Brian.
Great. Thank you, Andrew. I'm going to go ahead and grab the screen real quick. All right, can you guys see my PowerPoint? For those of you not on mute.
Looks good.
Okay, great. So hello, everyone. Thanks, Ultra, for having us, Trillium, on board to kind of talk through this process. The agenda for my side today is what you see up here. So we're going to do some quick introductions of who we are, Trillium, what's driving the change. So what is, the key factors which is pushing organizations to a Industry 4.0 or manufacturing 4.0. We want to expand the definition a little bit and how we've seen it on our end of how people approach this. There's different tiers from our perspective of a very intelligent and disruptive manufacturing 4.0 or something that's a little bit easier to bite and chew. So we'll go through that. The rise of IoT in manufacturing, like Andrew spoke about, this is a huge factor that we hit at the majority of the manufacturing distribution places we go to. There's so much data out there now. The ability to consume that and utilize it for different actionable items is massive. Some of the basic tools required in the tool belt you need to get going, and then how do you start? What are some of the questions you need to ask from an organizational perspective? How do you position yourself in the market in a way where this can be a benefit for you? And then from our opinion, what's coming next? Industry 4.0 was the new thing. what's going to be next after that, and how do we approach that and make sure that we're prepared for it. And finally, we'll end with some questions. So we already did a little introduction on myself, but Brian Rose, manager, I lead the manufacturing team at Trillium. So I've been fortunate to go and work with manufacturing and distribution companies across all different business units that have leveraged this IoT technology. Just real quick from a Trillium implementation perspective, or for who we are a Oracle consulting firm. So whether it's a JD Edwards or ERP Cloud or NetSuite, we help with ERP implementations, upgrades, managed services, things along the lines of that, a one-stop shop for all of your ERP needs. We have 170 full-time employees across the U.S. We've been doing it a long time, so we're fortunate to have people that have been around software and around processes for over 16 years. This is a quick little shot of some of our customers. We've helped over 750 customers in our total lifespan of how long, the 25 years we've been around. We're very proud of these customers. So what I want to jump into now that we went through the who Trillium is how did we get here? And what I mean by that is, how did Industry 4.0 become what it is today? Just to give you a little bit of a timeline of the breakout. Like Andrew was saying, this is the Industry 4.0 is the buzzword, but some people aren't fully aware of how we got here and what the processes were before this. So you can see here in this little graph, Industry 1.0 started back in the day when steam power machines were developed to ultimately aid workers, so to help the manufacturing process to be a little bit more automated to where it's not as much manual labor. Industry 2.0 is when electricity really came into play. So that obviously, from a mass production perspective, allowed people to easily manufacture these products and push that electricity to individual machines. And the value of that is the efficiency and effectiveness of these manufacturing facilities grew enormously, just because they could run direct power to those individual machines in the floor. Industry 3.0, this is when electronic devices kind of came out. Some things like circuit chips, some of the automated robotic machines, which allowed manufacturers to automate the process from a production perspective a little bit better. But these were not machines that could easily be connected to ERP systems or MES systems or any type of system outside. They were more pre-built internally to not connect outside of their current architecture. Now, Industry 4.0, and not to go into this because we already talked about it, but this is really where now we have the ability to have these machines not just speak to ERP systems, but MES systems, to your iPad, your phone, anywhere you are, everything is ultimately connected. And that also includes the ability to connect to your customer in an automated fashion, to your suppliers in an automated fashion. So it's not just within the manufacturing area. The different key pieces to your organization can also be built in. So what's driving this change ultimately? So the first one is digital and intelligent products. So companies can now develop these intelligent, connected, self-aware products that are capable of sharing information about the health of the product, the location, wear and tear, usage levels, things along the lines of that. So just the ability to get the data is one of those driving factors. Now, the second one is some emerging technologies, things like 3D printing, AI, blockchain, machine learning, voice-controlled interfaces. You see a lot of people now when they're out on the floor doing picks or putaways or whatever it is, they have a microphone on their head and they're able to talk to systems now, right? All of that is built into this IoT technology. They're really making it possible to translate futuristic digital business concepts into business realities, and it's not something that takes large amounts of time like it used to before. I mean, once again, imagine the example of using something like augmented reality on a factory floor to get job information or access raw material information, or things like when I'm doing a physical inventory, if I look at an area that doesn't have inventory, but my ERP system says it does, I can, in an automated fashion, make decisions based on that. I mean, it's pretty game-changing of how this can really help you from a business perspective. The third one is, shifts in customers' attitudes, their behaviors, and also the expectations from things like wearables, connected cars, networks running for different types of products. Internet of Things is allowing companies to organize and get opportunities to collect data, not just internally, meaning in the manufacturing area, but also from their customers. So these customers, they're changing all the time, and by allowing that data to come in and out, you can make predictive decisions based on that, and forecast in a different way and build your products from a product and design a different way. It just opens up all different types of areas. And then finally, the rise of the Internet of Things. So now it's so simple to connect these devices that it just makes perfect sense to utilize some of those things from a change perspective. Now, when we talk about benefits, it's pretty straightforward. From a high level, you can improve your operations. So things like predicting unplanned downtime. If you're in manufacturing and you don't have any predictive maintenance around when something's going to go down, maybe it's running high from a temperature perspective, and usually when that happens, it fails. Things along the lines of that allow you to keep those very important lines that you need running all day long up, making sure you're doing that type of maintenance. 60% of people who have adopted the Industry 4.0 have seen a boost in their productivity. And once again, that's whether they're now able to look at unplanned maintenance or optimize how much from a run perspective they're utilizing a specific machine. Think of it like this: if I have two different machines I'm running, and if I don't have the information of how utilized one is versus the other, it's going to be hard for me to schedule from a capacity perspective what work orders to run down which lines. So by getting that data in a real-time fashion, you're able to make those correct decisions. Reduction of costs, real-time production monitoring, predictive maintenance, all that allows these organizations to have almost a 50% reduced operating costs. Quality control, this is something that comes into play when you're doing automated scanning. So something runs down the line, you have a camera or something along the lines of that taking pictures of all these machines or the products coming off the line, and it'll kick them out right if they're bad. That takes an automated approach to this while utilizing the IoT. And then ultimately you can innovate faster. You can utilize some of those new technologies we were talking about earlier, 3D printing, AI, blockchain, things like that, to innovate your process in a much more automated way. Now, like I talked about earlier, the way that I've always seen Industry 4.0 in general is it's really three-tiered. And if we jump into this little screenshot, it'll give you somewhat of a view of how, from a layout perspective, we structure it in the tiers. So there's the first level is connecting your manufacturing facility, meaning I'm connecting machines to an ERP system, my forklifts, my scans, maybe even suppliers, things along the lines of that, right? Think of it, everything inside of my four walls. Well, that's great. That'll help me, but it's not giving me any information from a customer perspective. I can't make decisions based on the market easier. So you jump into something like a level 2. That's me gathering data from a customer. So, in this example, we're using a smart fridge as a product. If I have that smart fridge passing back data of efficiency, how long they're breaking down, the parts that are usually failing, and driving that into my IoT infrastructure, I can now make better decisions associated with what is actually happening at the customer, at their house, whatever it is, and gathering that data. So getting that fridge performance and operations associated to what's happening. Now, the next level up, and this is the most disruptive, and ultimately from a process that the hardest to implement, is the level 3, and this is really very automated across the board. So some of the examples you see up here are automatic grocery replacement. So I have a smart fridge. It knows where I put the food in my fridge. And when I'm low on milk, it automatically sends a message to Kroger or wherever it is, right, that you get that information from, Amazon, to order products for you. So that is the tier above what we're talking about. Also, in terms of replacement parts, maybe now that smart fridge is sending predictive maintenance associated to how often this part fails to suppliers around me, so they have enough parts on hand when things go down. So now, instead of a 10-day lead time to get a part, I can get it in 1 day because we're prepared for it. We know this is something that's failing. So those are really the 3 levels associated to the IoT structure. Now let's just jump through them real quick. So level 1, once again, this is where manufacturing supply chain process can be organized to take advantage of the intelligent interactions between machines, workplaces, processes, people, things along the lines of that. Cost structures can be fundamentally transformed to cost effectively serve new markets, understanding different segments. And also personalized production configurations can now be manufactured and delivered to each customer in a scalable and profitable way. Level 2, this is a little bit more from a maturity perspective on the curve. Let's once again think of the example of the refrigerator manufacturer. They can now capture that live customer usage data. They build connective interactive products that can send continuous customer usage. It can be used to power customer-driven approach, product design, things along the lines of that. It's, once again, gathering that information at the customer level to make better decisions on what I need to do moving forward from an industry's perspective. And then lastly, our level 3, the most mature on the curve. This is, like we talked about earlier, the ability to do that automatic grocery replacement or the just-in-time 3D printing of replacement parts. You can arm, with predictive insights, the manufacturer can ensure that timely parts are dispatched in all these different locations. And like I said earlier, ensure that immediate access to those parts. Partnering with different third-party providers or maintenance services to equip them with the products they need to build those in their facility. From a curve perspective, you'll kind of see in here, level 1, 2, and 3. Level 1 is, from a customer value, the lowest, but there is a lot of value internally from an organizational perspective. Customer value spikes the higher you go on this tier, but also it's much harder to implement. The innovation of doing it in-house in the manufacturing area, that's pretty standard. Once you get into grabbing data from the customer, also leveraging different third-party suppliers, different third-party warehouses, that's when it's a very disruptive innovation that takes a high level of effort to implement, but there is a huge amount of ROI that comes out of that from the back end. When we talk about, who's deploying this tech now, who's doing the different tiers, this is just a quick little example. Right now, we're seeing about 32% utilizing that tier 1 manufacturing, so having all those in-house IoT functions. When you add in the warehouse, about 26%. Extended supply chain, that's getting out to the supplier, things along the lines of that. Right now, only 19.4% are getting out to that customer, getting that customer data. So it's still very early on in the life cycle of this product, but there's no question it's something that's going to grow, specifically because at this point, customers want things personalized more than ever. They want things to be easier more than ever, and that's what's going to help drive that transition, is getting that data and allowing organizations, whether it's within manufacturing or distribution, to make better decisions. So the rise of IoT, what is IoT? And Andrew hit on this a little bit, but ultimately it's just taking all the things in the world and the internet and connecting them together, whether it's a phone, a tablet, a machine, anything. A forklift, whatever it is, it's connecting all those different devices together. The 3 top use cases we see from a manufacturing perspective are: 1, within the manufacturing operations, So this includes things that are, asset management, intelligent manufacturing, performance optimization, planning, human interaction, things along the lines of that. It includes different production and asset monitoring and tracking as well, associated with that process. Secondary is, how am I managing my machines, whether it's an internal machine, or it's an internal robot, or it's a truck that's running down the road, or a forklift. How am I maintaining those from an optimization perspective? How utilized are they? And also, when do they get a fail? When do I have to make sure I'm doing this maintenance, or it's going to go down? The third is field service. So this is when we leave the factory manufacturing facility and go directly out to the floor, or sorry, to the customer or wherever it is. This is allowing people who leave the four walls of the manufacturing facility still get all the data that they may need to make the correct decisions from a service perspective. A lot of places we go, they manufacture their parts and they also service it. So they have these two tiers. They want to be able to internally manufacture and be profitable, but they also want to have a good customer service perspective to drive those customers to come back over and over and over again, because they're giving them the service that they ultimately need. From an IoT benefits perspective, you can see in here, 76% of the early movers say that IoT is increasing the insights also into the customer preferences and behaviors. 66% of these movers are able to measure risks, protect company assets, and improve safety overall. And then, 60% of these people are also improving the reliability or performance of products and services within that IoT structure. This is a little bit of a view of what we normally see within the manufacturing department of how people are leveraging the IoT. So all the way from the production to the packaging to the completions to the shipments to whatever it is, we are connecting all these devices together to incorporate a more holistic view of what's happening in my shop floor. So instead of somebody having to, manually walk up and do something in the system, do a transfer, do an issue, do a completion, whatever it is, we can now automate that utilizing machines and gathering that data. Think of scraps, quality effects, RMAs. All of those processes can have some type of automation associated to it, which helps allow people on the floor or people in the back office to do actions that are value added to your business versus just doing busy work. Taking that busy work function out of the process is key. Some of the things like we talked about earlier that you see in here are managing those machines. So understanding what's happening from a temperature perspective, things along the lines of that. Scanning things into a completion utilizing an IoT scanner device. All of this is one holistic view of how that manufacturing tier 1 performance can be shown. There's really two basic tools that incorporate the Industry 4.0 Manufacturing 4.0 function. The first one is the hardware, so the robots, the iPads, the forklifts, whatever it is that allow people to get that data out. And then secondarily, the software that you can utilize to gather that information. So up here on the screen, these are just two different options. So on the left side, there's an Oracle IoT production monitoring and IoT asset monitoring tool, which allows you to connect all devices across your organization and pull those into one view. And I'm going to pull up a video in a second and show you what that looks like. But what's great is it takes all that data and helps you make decisions based on what's actually happening from a utilization, a failure, a shipment, whatever it is. This is if I'm pushing it into some type of ERP system or some database. A lot of people just like the ability to report on their information. So they gather all this information from the machines, they hold them in a database, and then they utilize different reporting tools, whether it's an Oracle Analytics Cloud or a Power BI or whatever it is from a reports perspective, and create these associated reports to understand what is driving some of the things that are causing problems. So let me jump over real quick and show you quick video.
Revolution is here. Machines are self-configuring and adapting to efficiently create personalized products. To succeed in Industry 4.0, we will need smart sensors onboarded to a computationally superior IoT platform, big data analytics, algorithms, and machine vision technologies to derive real-time, context-specific insights, as well as augmented human-machine interfaces and mobile devices to communicate real-time instructions in the physical world. Oracle IoT Production Monitoring Cloud is designed to help factory managers with these Industry 4.0 goals. Imagine a factory manager who manages multiple factories, producing a range of products. To simplify digital interactions with physical machines, Oracle IoT Digital Twin provides a consolidated view of asset performance with a sophisticated interface for telemetry and control. Oracle IoT Production Monitoring Cloud has digital twins of all factories and products, and therefore tracks key operational performance metrics to help the factory manager gain real-time visibility to understand the current status of factories, products, and machines. It helps the factory manager to identify a specific factory, product, or machine that requires attention via the comparative tab. The historical view of the performance indicator helps to assess if the poor performance factory is a new problem. The factory manager can further diagnose and identify a specific cause that contributes to poor production yield. In the product view, the factory manager can identify the bottleneck machine and study its health by a real-time sensor data. Using the business-friendly rules engine, Oracle IoT Production Monitoring Cloud can notify factory managers of machine health anomalies. Oracle IoT Cloud uses predictive models for multiple sub-assemblies to predict the probability of failure of the overall asset. Using the knowledge base of diagnostics code and contemporaneous sensor data, Oracle IoT Cloud uses built-in artificial intelligence algorithms to find the most likely cause of failure. To resolve issues, IoT Cloud prescribes the best course of action using the built-in recommendation engine. Maintenance work orders are also automatically created. Oracle IoT Cloud uses autonomous smart algorithms which help factory managers reduce unplanned downtime. Factory managers can get a closer look using augmented reality capabilities in the Oracle IoT mobile application. With integration, Oracle IoT Production Monitoring Cloud can communicate anomaly incidents to automatically schedule maintenance. Further, powerful analytics will generate predictions of performance metrics factory managers can use to improve factory uptime and reduce inefficiencies. Industry 4.0 holds the promise of cooperative mass production factories. Products, machines, and personnel communicate seamlessly. Get there quicker with Oracle IoT Production Monitoring Cloud.
Okay, so as everyone could see there, it is a very, very cool tool. Allows me to get data from all different types of sources, make decisions based on how things are running, failures that I'm having, customer orders that are going to be late because someone's stuck in traffic. Think of all those different scenarios that can come into play, all based on this software. So there's all different types of apps within that Oracle platform that you can get and gather that information and help to make you have better decision-making options when going through that process. So when we talk about jump-starting this process, you know, what do you need to start doing when understanding how do I get started? The first thing is really reviewing and assessing your organization's current maturity level. So from an automation and digitalization within top-down and front-to-back processes, the goal ultimately is to identify opportunities for improvement, and in such areas, operational efficiency, products, and how mature you are from a perspective. Evaluating your current existing products. So how can you leverage these different technologies to help produce these products in a more efficient way, to manage them from a customer perspective in a more efficient way? That's one of the key things we always push to our customers is understand what you're making today, what your problems are, and how IoT can really help you move down the path from a technology perspective. The fourth thing is investigating the potential in new technologies such as AI, machine learning, 3D printing, and how those can impact your current process. Like you saw in that little video, AI is becoming a massive piece for these different organizations. Also machine learning. So the ability to say, hey, without a PM coming up for a preventative maintenance schedule, I know this is going to fail because I keep getting this repetitive high temperature or high pressure or things along the lines of that, which will kick off someone to go and take a look at it. So before the machine actually fails, it summons someone to go and take a look at it. And then finally, just brainstorming the potentials for this disruptive innovation and how this new business model can really help you grow into new markets, new products, new ways of manufacturing those products, moving down the path. Right now, this is just a quick view of who's really taking advantage of the IoT structure at this point. So 24% currently don't see the value in implementing it. What I would say is for a lot of these organizations that do not, their customers or their competitors certainly are. So it is going to be something that will become a severe disadvantage if you don't start planning ultimately for it. 35% have already implemented something related to the IoT piece. And then 24% really don't have a timeline of how often they're going to do it. And then you'll see about 20% are in the process of implementing this today. So almost close to 50% are either implemented or are in the process of implementing right now. And I only think that number is going to grow as the days progress. So, from a what's next perspective, Industry 5.0, when's that going to come? At some point, it'll happen. I think right now, the manufacturing 4.0 is really going to drive a lot of different IoT structures, which these organizations are going to be able to utilize to help make better decisions and understand what products they should be delivering out. The Industry 5.0, the way that we see this possibly happening is different manufacturers ultimately working together through IoT and getting products out in a more efficient way. This is not just connecting devices for my internal organization, but also competitors or even people within your supply chain to help get a product out and work together through different supply chains. So that's what I had today from an IoT perspective. I hope it was beneficial for everyone. This is once again something from our perspective, an ERP implementer, we're seeing the majority of our customers trying to at least implement in some way or another. What I'm going to do is pass it back over to Ultra, and then I think we're going to get into some questions.
Thank you, Brian. And we will be moving on to Q&A in just a moment. And I did want to let everyone know you do still have a chance to get your questions in. So you can send those in by hovering your cursor over your webinar screen, and you'll see the Q&A icon, that black bar down at the bottom. All right, so before we do that, I just wanted to share with you some of our upcoming webinar events. Join us next Thursday for Digital Manufacturing, Differentiate Through Customer Communication, and that is August 22nd. The following week, we'll be hosting Real Facts about ERP implementation. So that will be hosted by Ultra's founder and CEO, Jeff Carr, and that'll be August 28th. And then September 12th, we'll be talking at the Industrial IoT, What's the Hype versus Reality. You can register for any of these events at ultraconsultants.com/ERP-education. And with that, I will be handing it back over to Andrew for Q&A.
Thanks, Kristen, and thanks, Steve, for the session today. So we just got 2 questions in right now, and I thought we would go ahead and start off with that. So the first one here, what type of devices do manufacturers usually use in their operations?
Yeah, so that's a great question. The majority of the time where people start is with some type of automated scanner function, so allowing them to do either a transfer or a completion, things along the lines of that, utilizing some type of IoT gun. The other piece within that is the ability to hook up their robotics or CNC machines or presses, things along the lines of that, to gather the data around preventative maintenance, things like that. Those are the two main ones that we normally are seeing, at least right now.
Great, thanks, Brian. And we've got one more here from the audience. What types of software do we normally implement to handle Industry 4.0 functionality?
Yeah, so that's another good question. So for us, within the Oracle footprint, there are purpose-built IoT apps that we are implementing. There's an IoT production monitoring cloud. There's an asset monitoring cloud. There's a cloud for transportation. All of these are IoT, very similar to what you saw in the video today, which allows people to gather that information and distribute it where they need. We've also seen some people just hook it directly to their ERP system. So a lot of ERP systems today have APIs associated to them. So I can create a built-in API within my ERP system and hit it with a machine. So some people are utilizing an app to gather all the information and doing visual analytics there. Some people are just going directly into their ERP or MES system.
Great, thanks, Brian. It looks like those are the only two questions that we've got from the audience, so I think that probably wraps up Q&A.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Andrew and Brian, for sharing your expertise with us today. We ask that all of our attendees stick around for just a moment. Once we close out the webinar screen, you will see a survey pop up in your browser. If you wouldn't mind taking a couple of minutes to fill that out, we'd love to hear your feedback. And that will conclude today's webinar. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you at the next webinar.